Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I'm just going to change my order of questionings that I had planned, because I thought I just heard you all say to get accountability, we should do some more hearings and we should do some more briefings. And that would help us get accountability for 15 years of failed audits, right? I mean, I find that really unsatisfactory. Really unsatisfactory for me, and I'm hoping that maybe you can dispel some of this. So, Mr. Mansfield, you talked about some of the problems in the acquisition program. I thought I heard you say something like vague. The requirements are vague; they're indefinite. And then in oversight, there's problems with oversight, and then there's a problem with accountability. And I can't help think, but what Mr. Mfume said, and he said that this money is going down to a dark hole. And so I guess I'm finding myself absolutely apoplectic here in some ways, because I'm thinking of the F-35 program. When you look at the F-35 program, when you guys are conducting your audit, Mr. Mansfield, do you take into account performance of production by the contractors or the program itself?
Yes.
And so about a year and a half ago, you had at the high water mark, you had about 55% of delivered F-35s were operable. I'm going to put that word in there, operable. The word I got today was it's really closer to 29% today. Well, how bad does a program have to be before somebody is held accountable, Mr. Mansfield? I mean, I'm just dying to know that question. How bad does a program have to be? Because two aspects of this. This is a program that's supposed to go through 2088 or something like that, and it's going to cost us about $2 trillion. And the CBO said 2 years ago that over the next 10 years, DoD is going to receive $7.1 trillion from the federal government, and I think that's low based on just the trends that we're taking. So I'm curious, what happens, how do we get accountability besides a hearing and briefings? And I know that there's been hearings in HASC about this very program. I know we've had them. We've had briefings. I've sat in SCIFs. But we're still looking at a totally failed program. So what really does get us accountability?
So like I said, one of the roles of us for the DoD OIG is oversight, right? So we don't take specific action on a program. We make recommendations to the department, who ultimately has to take action on those programs. Oftentimes our recommendations relate to holding individuals accountable, to stopping programs, depending on the scope of the work that we've conducted. So I think it really falls to the department to take action on the recommendations when we identify those issues and call them out for them.
So the main thing that when we have oversight in Congress, we have y'all come in and testify, and you answer our questions. And this is not the most ideal format, although I'll say Mr. Sessions does a pretty good job because he gives us a little bit extra time. But in the end, it's like 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, and it's not the most ideal way. And so we get these private briefings. And then the public doesn't know, but we're ticked off after the private briefings. But the founders of this country, in the Constitution, gave this body the best and strongest check against this type of maladministration. And it is the purse strings. Mm-hmm. And so when you see a program where only 21% or 29%, whatever it is today, of F-35s in a multi-trillion-dollar program are even operable, maybe this body at this dais should really be looking into a different kind of accountability. Just saying that, you can see that I'm frustrated here because this is not the first one we've done of this, and I appreciate you all being here to talk about this. But I wanted to just ask one last area here. Do you guys is there a comprehensive audit that is done over the spare parts suppliers to DoD?
So I would say we haven't conducted a comprehensive audit over all of the suppliers, but we have looked at specific spare parts supplies, streams, or certain providers of that. Yes, sir.
And over the course of time, we can go back to the, what, $800 toilets and $600 hammers, but we can get up to, there was one DoD Inspector General found one supplier was charging 3,800% just a couple of years ago above the contracted amount. So my question is, how do we get hold of that end of the misspend?
Yeah, so I think we've made some recommendations related to two sides of that. The first is sometimes the contracting officers, when negotiating prices with a contractor, especially if it's a sole source provider, they don't necessarily have the information they need to make good decisions for the department. And that comes down to cost data, right? They're relying on historical pricing, or in other words, last year I paid $100 for that, so this year they're charging me $101, so that's a fair price. Now, I don't think you and I would do that in our normal, we do a little more research. How much does it actually cost to produce that item? What's going into that? So maybe that item actually costs you $50 to produce. Am I going to pay $101 this year because I paid $100 last year? Hopefully I'm not. The problem is the way that the acquisition regulations are established, it sets contracting officers up to use that historical pricing data versus the no-kidding hard facts of what the costs are. And that's difficult, it puts the contracting officer in a very difficult spot in terms of making an informed decision.
So there needs something statutorily that needs to be changed to modify that language, is that right?
Yeah, and we made a recommendation a couple years ago. The DoD submitted two legislative requests or proposals. I don't think they made it into the NDAA 2 years ago. There was another one for fiscal year 24 that was submitted. That one went through OMB and made it up. I don't believe that is in the current version of the NDAA. But
And it's a crying shame, Mr. Mansfield.
there is some stuff out there, though, to look at, sir.
Thank you so much. And Mr. Chairman, thank you. And I have some documents I'd like to include in the record. A piece called "What a Waste, $778 billion for the Pentagon and Still Counting." Another one entitled "Waste of the Day, Pentagon, $50 billion behind in building repairs." Another one, committee requests information on Pentagon's $125 billion in waste. Another one, Pentagon buried study that found $125 billion in wasteful spending. And then this one, which I didn't get a chance to ask about because I'd like to know what's really going on with this one as well. Forbidden Russian oil flows into Pentagon supply chain. Now yield. Thank you.
Without